Welcome back to our podcast. My name's Margie.
And I'm Audrey.
And you have you have sought out and found Harmony Group Consulting's video podcast here on YouTube. We are so glad you have joined us. Welcome, welcome.
That's right. Listen, we have had a week of growth and a week of laughter and fun, and it has been filled to the top. We got to spend some time together. Margie got to be a jet setter.
I was a
leaving on a jet plane.
I just took off like I was a fancy professional, a lady of leisure.
That's right. She was. She came out to the nice and balmy 20-degree weather of the Midwest. It was great. It was good fun.
Yes, but it was a nice change.
Well, yes. And now we're back to 80 degrees out here in Kansas. So, now come on back.
I will.
While she was out here, it was the perfect time because I have this one maple tree in the backyard that was turning that beautiful color of pinkish, orangish. And the day Margie left, the tree got so sad it lost all its leaves.
Well, I see why.
Of course.
It's what I love about your neighborhood because there are so many of those trees.
They're everywhere.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
It is.
We get a little bit of that in Georgia, but not like you guys do.
Well, not only did Margie jet set, but she got to come out here, and together we got to talk at the Association for Talent Development in Kansas City Fall Conference. And it was phenomenal. We loved every second of it.
Yeah, we got to meet some great people, which really is kind of our jam. That's one of our favorite things to do, is get to know different people and their experiences in their workplace and even in their professional lives. But we were able to share a little bit about conflict and how we can apply some emotional intelligence components, as well as talk about storytelling with conflict styles. And it was just fun. I was telling our mom, was checking in on us to see how was Kansas. And I said, it was great. It was great fun. It was like the two of us were in a room with 40 of our best friends.
It was absolutely fantastic. We did. Yeah, we hung out. We laughed. I made Margie embarrassed. It was great.
I think there were two different times, but who's counting, really?
You were?
No. I was just generalizing, but it really was a great time. And we love to be together, but we love to be together with all of you and talk about the things that we're learning, leave better than we were when we got there. We were just saying before we press record, which if you could ever see that footage, you'd probably learn a whole lot about us. But anywho, we were talking about just how much we learned. We went to present, but we really spent the day gleaning a lot from people around us, and it was really great.
It was during the opening keynotes speech. It was, gosh, we were writing down notes and we were coming up with ideas left and right. And one of the things that Chris Coladonato said, oh, I know, I practiced it.
Yes.
One of the things that Chris said that really struck us from an emotional intelligence, leadership, organizational change, conflict resolution, from those perspectives, was she started talking about team agreements.
Yes. And we know if we break that down, we can all determine what that means, right? It's this place where a team comes to say, we've got to establish some social norms here. We need to decide what is okay for us as a group to do and what is not okay for us as a group to do. And so when those things are agreed upon, usually in a really proactive and conscious way, right? Not just, this is kind of how we do it around here, but really sitting down and nailing down some of those components that are expected explicitly, right? Maybe even they're literally written out.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely
stated. But the importance of those to help productivity, to help overall well-being of employees. And I thought it was really good. So we've been kind of noodling on that.
Yeah, it reminded me of when we were younger at home. Anytime, so it's just the two of us, just Margie and I, we're the only children. And so it was us and our mom and dad. And we, as a family, would watch this television show called Family Ties. And I know, right?
I love
and in that, anytime, Oh, is that who? Yep, it was Michael
So
J. Fox, and
yes, I loved that.
who else was in there? Well, Scott Valentine, he ended up being in there because he was the boyfriend of
That's
Mallory,
right. What a
and
great show.
Justine Bateman, because she's the
Justine
sister
Bateman
of,
was the sister. That's
that's right.
right.
And she's the
All right.
sister of Jason Bateman, right?
Everybody should go look up an episode of Family Ties just for some nostalgia.
I'm telling you, it was good. And when
Mhm.
their family would hold a family meeting, someone would say, "Get the ladle." And the ladle
Yes.
ended up being like a gavel. And so we ended up doing that at our house. Somebody get the ladle.
Mhm.
And
And
it,
did we really get the ladle? I mean, yeah, maybe a couple of times dad would do it to be funny or
right.
something, but it really, yeah, but we had these formal moments, right? Where
Yes.
we would sit down and say, okay, the four of us need to come to some agreement on something.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say we usually won those agreements as
Yeah.
kids, but they listened,
Yeah.
right? Thanks,
And
mom, for
in our house,
listening.
anytime we have those family meeting kind of things, the kids are always like, "Where are we moving?"
Right.
Like,
Bless. At least it's
right,
not like, are you pregnant again? Are you gonna have another?
right.
All right. Have you ever seen those videos? Are hysterical
Oh
when the
yeah.
parents are trying to tell them and the kids are like, Mom,
Come
I mean,
on. Get a
again.
hobby, a different hobby.
A different hobby. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Go to Walmart, take up knitting, anything,
Yes,
mother.
knitting.
Yeah.
Perfect. um yeah, we digress. But yes, that's a great example of a way that even a family can make it sort of formal. Maybe you stay a little bit after dinner and clear the plates and do a special dessert because you have something you want to talk about. Certainly at work we have all sorts of opportunities to set those up. And I think the precision of an agreement is really important. One of the things we talked about at this conference was about lunch times and
Mhm.
respecting lunch times within an organization. I'll tell you for myself, in a school setting, that's really tricky
Mhm.
because we work during lunch, right? So when the
As an
kids are all,
administrator, especially.
yes,
Uh-huh.
as the kids are all eating, we're walking around, we're making sure that there are no shenanigans happening, kids are where they're supposed to be. So when they're out of lunch and back in class, we have time to eat. Well, elementary now has a different lunch time. High school has a different lunch time. So it's constantly moving. There's no lunch hour.
Mhm.
And while that's one setting, maybe also if you're remote or you
Yeah.
cross multiple time zones, you might
Mhm.
have that same thing where there is really no time set aside for everyone to take care of themselves, have lunch, take a break. So that may be one of those things that a company might choose to spend some time setting up an agreement about.
Mhm. And maybe even not a large company policy, but maybe smaller teams within the company. In where I work, we work for a larger department, but we have this smaller division of 7 people that make up our quote unquote team. And there are there are some people that work for our team that we want them to stay for a long time because they were really good and they are really smart
Gotcha.
and they're fun to be around. But
Mhm.
we also know that they're overeducated for their
Mhm.
roles.
Mhm.
So our team leader decided that in order to make it more attractive to stay, he had a team meeting and he said, "What are some things that we can do as a team to make your time at work better?" And so he took a poll and he said, "Okay, so do you want like special lunch days? Do you want I don't know, some other things?" And one of the things that we ended up coming up with was a different work schedule for some of us. So some of us chose to do a work schedule where we actually increase our work hours for several days, and then we get a day off. So it's a
Nice.
different kind of work schedule.
Right.
But I appreciated that our supervisor recognized that he had people who were overqualified,
Mhm.
overeducated, but were
Mhm.
really good and he wanted them to stay. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting. It's a different way at looking at team agreements. But I bet you can come up with some ideas about how you could use a team agreement to react or 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 maybe be proactive when you can sense some tension in within the team.
Mhm. Yeah, I think well, before we talk about that, I wanted one of the things you were talking about, that employee retention piece.
Mm.
Man, I don't know if any of you out there listening are on LinkedIn, but I feel like it is a constant churning of people trying to find a way to get a new job or to move forward in their jobs, or they're unhappy in their jobs and seeking counsel. I do think that a skill, a practice like team agreements, using that to seek out what's going on here, how can we kind of nail down um, ways to support, because like you said, we want the very best employees,
Yeah.
but it's hard in these days, it's hard to keep them in all kinds of industries, not just in education, although that is true, but across the board. And I think your point about tensions, one of my, I read this book over the summer, I would get it, but it's out of frame, and then I'd have to turn around and, but it's about feedback, and it's about giving, not just giving feedback, but taking feedback.
Oh, I remember you telling me
It
about
was
it.
so good. I wish I
Yes.
could get it. I'm not going to.
I could do a
Literally,
dance and
it's
entertain while you get it.
literally right there.
Mm.
But, but I love it because it helped not just how to give it, but how to receive feedback. So I think team agreements cause us as leaders to be vulnerable, because in that moment we have to hear the things people don't like.
Yeah.
So whether it's lunch or tensions or schedules or whatever, you'd have to sit there and kind of hear them say, what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
I don't like this part about how things have been set up. You might have been the one that set it up that way, right?
Yes.
So now you have to hear that, okay, what I did is not working, or what we planned is not working, and then be willing to adjust it. I think that it's good, but I think it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we just, as leaders, maybe we think it is the way it is. We're just going to have to keep churning for a little bit longer. Whereas some of our employees might have really great suggestions.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Absolutely. And I don't love the stagnant employee Dropbox, suggestion
Yes.
box,
Yeah.
because just like from the office, I'd forget to check it, and then it'd be 2 years later and it would
That
be
is
about my coffee breath or something.
listen, that is the funniest episode, but also tragic. Do you remember? It's
Tragic.
terrible. There's a lot of that show where it's like looking at a car crash where you don't really want to see it. And that's
Yeah.
that's one of those. That and Scott's Tots.
Scott's Tots, the
I can't watch
all-time
it.
worst. I have secondhand
Terrible.
embarrassment, and I end up like
It's
crawling in
terrible.
my shirt. Oh, it's awful. I get so embarrassed.
So comment box. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so no comment box. Comment
Mhm.
boxes, I'm just not a huge fan of, but
Yeah.
I will say this. I did make this one suggestion one time to come up with a completely different Gmail, Yahoo, something that's, different account that is team suggestions. Everybody has the passcode, so everybody can read everything, and sign in and write from there to the
Okay.
boss. Instead of writing to it, go in and write from there. I have a suggestion, and send it to the team leader, because then it stays anonymous.
Yeah.
Anybody can go in there and read it. It's
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Back to the vulnerable piece, right? I mean, you got to be ready for whatever.
Yeah.
But could be really, really helpful.
Mhm.
I was going to tell you, one of the other groups that I follow that I really, really like is the Conscious Leadership Group.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
if you don't follow them, especially on LinkedIn is where I follow them, I really, really like what they have to say, because they are about, I was going to say consciously, but that's in their name, but They are.
They're intentional.
Intentional.
Okay.
They're very intentional about thinking through the processes, not just doing it as it's always been done, right?
Mhm.
And so they wrote this book, or there is a book that they endorse about the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. And in that book, they
Oh.
talk about team agreements. So I have a
Ah.
little excerpt I was going to tell you about.
Okay.
They say there are 4 pillars or practices to sort of master the idea of team agreements,
Mhm.
which some of them, I mean, it obvious, but also helps to clarify.
Mhm.
So one is the agreements have to be clear. And so it has to be
Clear
sure
is
to be
kind.
clear
Brené
is kind.
Brown,
Good job, Renee. I
right?
watched her special on Netflix this weekend.
The Atlas of the Heart.
No, this one is
Oh.
the Daring Greatly, I think.
Oh,
No, I don't know. Well, it's a spin-off of the TED Talk about Daring
okay.
Greatly.
Okay.
It was just, I just love to hear her talk.
Mhm.
So make clear agreements, being very precise about who's going to do what and when.
Mhm.
The second one is keeping agreements, which I think is a good point to make. Do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it, which is important. But then I like 3 and 4. Okay, so 3 is renegotiating agreements. So
Yes.
they
Important.
say it right. They say
Mhm.
as soon as you know you're not going to be able to keep up the agreement, then you communicate with the parties that you're going to break, you need to break the agreement. And can we renegotiate this?
Mhm.
Um, I think that gives some freedom, some humanity to the agreement so that it can live and breathe. And then the fourth one is to clean up broken agreements.
Mm.
And so they talk about, when we fail to keep an agreement, we need to be humble enough to go back and try to renegotiate, admit that we were not able to keep that agreement, explain why. I think those are good things. It's not just about make an agreement and keep the agreement. It's then, because real life happens, renegotiate the agreement and then be willing to repair it and kind of clean it up if you break it. Those are, anyway, some very thoughtful
Yeah.
ways to kind of build it out, I thought.
Yep. And I think team agreements are probably something that um, require leadership that is willing to move forward. So if you're part of a team and you really wish there could be some kind of a team agreement and you're not sure that your leadership is willing to do something like that, then it may be time to think about what you would have put into the agreement. What would you have made? And maybe make an agreement with yourself.
I like
Um, and consider what are ways that you can manage yourself in
that.
the relationship that you have with your boss and your team. And maybe start putting in, do mini agreements first. You
Mm.
may be able to ask for a very small agreement first, maybe
Yeah.
just about bringing in, if you want a Coke Zero in the afternoon, just, you know, I
It's
just want
like
to
you're
go get
reading
a
my
Coke Zero.
mail.
Sounds
There's nothing
delightful.
better. There's nothing better.
Oh, it's so
About 2:30 in the afternoon, little fountain Coke Zero.
good. With the
Crushed
chili
ice is
ice.
even
Mm,
better. Just don't know
mm.
we always access that, but at least
Yes, talk to me, Goose.
mm,
That is
absolutely.
my jam right there. Well, I think we've been able to kind of touch on some ideas for team agreements, and I would be really interesting to know if somebody other workplaces call them something different.
Yes.
What are some other terms, or where have you seen them work really well? Maybe if you've seen some not work well, if you've seen some fail, maybe you could help identify some of the barriers that help them not be successful so that we can all learn from it. I wouldn't mind knowing that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and really helpful. I like the idea of shared language that,
Mhm.
to your point, whether we call them team agreements or whether we call them something else. Yeah, I think it's hopefully this has given everyone just a little inspiration to
Yeah.
be clear about our communication with people that we work with and people that we live with, be willing to
Get
say
out the
when
ladle.
get out
Get out the
the
ladle, man.
label.
Get out the ladle.
When it's not going to work, you just say it's not going to work. Can we renegotiate? What
Then
great
the
ways
ladle.
to, yes, what great ways to manage your own emotions and help people around you manage theirs. It's
I think it's
good.
awesome.
Good stuff.
Spot on. Now I want some soup.
Go. Oh, ladle. That took me
The
just a
ladle.
second.
Or gravy. But if I
Yeah.
want gravy, I'm gonna have some biscuits, and I want those big old fat cat head biscuits.
Yeah. Did you ever do chocolate gravy? That's a thing.
Mm. Yeah,
Do you
I used to
make
make it. Mm-hmm.
I thought I remembered you making that.
I would like to dedicate 10 of my pounds to chocolate gravy.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
done.
It's
Well
good
done.
fun. Well, I am Audrey,
I'm Margie.
and we are so grateful that you were able to join us for
We
this
are.
podcast, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.
Bye.